All right, everybody, welcome back. Week 3 of the Intro to HTML and JavaScript. Today we are going to talk a little bit about JavaScript for this week. All right, first I'm going to put like okay, so for your first JavaScript, first thing you're going to need to know about JavaScript is where to put it inside this HTML file. So it goes right after your title and it goes in your head tag. So you can just press enter right after your title, and then you type in something called script. Now, the type is not important. I would get rid of that. That is not important at all. I forgot to have my ending tag. There we go. Not important at all. Just make your two script statements like this. I personally have never used the type thing before. I've just used it like this. So you type your script, and then from here on out, inside the script, in between these two script tags, you can write any JavaScript at all. So in JavaScript, the first note I would like to make is how to make comments, because we talked about comments last time. So when you do comments in HTML, you do them with this dash dash, you type something, then you have a dash dash, and then you have a closing. That's how you write them in HTML. Now in JavaScript, or inside these script statements, you do a double slash. That'll give you your comment. Now you can also do a comment another way, which if you have multiple lines of comment, this is a good way to do it. You hit /*, then you hit however much lines of code you want to have in there, and then you hit */. So you just do the backwards, */. Now you have a bunch of space inside here where you can type a bunch of comment, and it's multiple lined. So yeah, imagine you have a whole bunch of code and you just want to test to see if the code works without this section of the code or that section of the code. You can go to that section of the code and you can put a /* and then a / on like the next couple of lines. You put it *. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So that's how you do codes. That's how you do. Sorry, that's how you do comments inside the script tag. Now, if you would like to make a function for your JavaScript, you have to start it with the word function, and you see how it turns purple and like turns italicized a little bit and stuff like that. That tells me that I spelled the word correctly. Sometimes I switch like the I and the O backwards just because of like a typing error, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? Anyway, that's how you start a function. Then you name your function whatever you would like to name it. So you could say like first, be like my first function. Then you put parentheses at the end. Now, these parentheses are important. You got to put them, but you're not going to use anything or put anything in them right now. You would put parameters in there, but you don't need to do that right now. We're not going to even worry about that. So after you type your parentheses and stuff, you hit enter, and then you want to put your opening and closing bracket. Now, I always do my opening and closing bracket on separate lines like this. Now, some other people will do their brackets like this, like that. Some people do that. It runs great just like that if you want to run your code like that. I don't like it. It makes it harder for me to debug my code that way, because if I have a bunch of lines of code and I have a bunch of opening and closing brackets within my function, it is so much easier to look at this and look straight down in one line and try to find the closing bracket to know if I've missed the bracket or not. So that's why I do it, but you can do it whichever way you like. You can put your bracket up on the first line. I've also seen people write their code, whatever their code may be, that code, and then they also do that. They have their closing bracket like after it. So it looks like this. That's how their code looks. Now again, it will run, and there's no problem with it doing that, but I just think it looks a little messy, and that's just a personal, thing. I just think it looks messy. So there's that. And that's how you open and close a function. Now within this function, you can do a lot of things. You can make variables. You can do a lot of stuff in here. So the way you make variables, you have to declare a variable before you can use a variable. So the way you declare variables, you can use the word let. And so you type let, and then you type goo goo. I don't know. So you type let and then the name of your variable, whatever you want your variable name to be, whatever you want to call it. And then that is the name of it. At the end of each and every single one of your lines of code that you write, you need to put a semicolon at the end to tell the computer that you are done with that line of code. You don't do it up here, and you don't do it every single time. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, if you're finished with the command, you say, that's the command I want, I'm done with that command, you're wiping your hands clean with that command, you want to put a semicolon. That's how the computer knows that you're done with that command. So if I said let Gugu, all it does is it creates a variable named Gugu, and what's in Gugu? Undefined. The word undefined is put into Gugu just because it doesn't know what's in there. You could immediately declare it and then say, I want hi. There we go. I want hi to be in there. Now Gugu has become a variable that contains a string called hi. And that's what a string is. A string is just a string of letters. It's a bunch of letters put together. And so 2 letters is a string. It is 2 letters. So it defines Gugu as a string and puts hi into it. And if I were to later say alert Gugu, it would then put hi up on the screen. So that's how you declare that. Another way you can do it, and I don't use this one as much, but you can say var for variable. You can put var. Some people do that. I tend not to. I just like the word let. I just use it frequently. But that's how you create variables. Now you can do a lot of other things. You can make Gugu into a number. There you go. Now let Gugu. Now it knows that Gugu is a integer. It's an integer. It's not a character string or anything like that. So again, if you left it like this, it would be undefined. Gugu is an undefined variable, so that's what it leaves it as until you assign something to it. Now, if we discuss trying to mix HTML and JavaScript, there are some commands that you're going to need to know to be able to do that. One of those is document.get element by tag name. That's not what I wanted. It was close though. We want ID. I believe it's lowercase. I think it is. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. It's not capitalized. Yep. So document.get element by ID will be able to take an ID that you put in your body statement. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I was telling you about divs earlier. So you can make your div. I didn't want to do that. There we go. So you make your div, and you can put a space ID equals, and then you can type an ID in there. I would name it, let's see, output div. Let's call it that, output div. Now, document.getElement by ID can help you to link together this div and this statement right here. So if I type output div, then it is connected. These two are now connected. Now, how does that help us? You can say something like enter HTML, and then you put it equal to something. So say we still had Gugu. Imagine we still had that. Don't forget your semicolon there at the end. So if we came back up here and we said let Gugu equal hi, and then put that semicolon there. Now document.getElement by ID will look at this ID and find that ID somewhere, and it says, oh wait, here it is. It's in this ID for div, and it will put it in that div. And so that Gugu, the hi, will be shoved into this statement right here, and then it'll come over here and it'll print that statement. If we were to load this up right now, it would just, well, it probably wouldn't print it straight off because we haven't called this function. But there's a good function right there. To make this run, one of my favorite ways to do it is to use a button. So you would say something like button, and here inside the button, you would say something called onClick. And onClick puts out these parentheses here, and you can type in first. You type in the name of the function that you want to run. So you say button onClick first. And so when you click on the click, it's trying to tell you on the click of that button, it will activate first, which is this function right there. And I can just put like click me. There we go, click me, and that's what the button will say on it. Oh, and I just realized I forgot something. I need the type. You put type. You just call it type button. That was one thing that I was missing there. But that's all you need, and then it'll create this function that'll talk to each other. So this function can now talk to your HTML stuff. You can have this function that will talk back and forth between this HTML and send information back and forth. Now, another thing that I would like to show you guys is that you can add stuff together. So say let Gugu is saying hi, let name equal, we'll say prompt. We'll use prompt. Whoopsies, there's an M in there. Say prompt, and then you got to put in parentheses, in quotations, please enter your name. Okay, you do that. Don't forget your semicolon. Now you have these interesting things, coming together. So you have Gugu and you have name. So the prompt asks for your name. And what this is going to do is this is going to pop up, give you like a little pop-up window that's going to say, please enter your name. That's what prompt does. Prompt opens a window. And then you could say like, let final. We'll say let final equal Gugu plus name. Now you have a variable that puts these two together, and you do it by using the plus symbol. And that's what I was saying to you like last week about the 25, age 25, if you add them together, it's just going to throw them together because they were characters or strings instead of being numbers. So it'll do the same thing. It'll say hi, and then say the name of the person that it prompted you to put in. I would put a space here, a comma and a space, just so that the words aren't, your name and the hi aren't put together. So then you have this, and I would change this to say final, because now you're taking what's in final, saying hi so-and-so, and putting it in the document.getElementById. That's your final. That inner HTML, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but inner HTML is just telling it that it's going to go out to the HTML file that is inside this file that you're using. It's not going anywhere outside, it's saying inside the file, so inner HTML. So another thing that I wanted to show you guys real quick is another use of document.getElementById. It's kind of similar to what's going on here, but not quite the same. And what you're going to do is you're going to use, instead of asking somebody up here for this, let's just get rid of all this. Instead of asking someone up there, you can ask them inside the HTML file, which works too, which I told you guys that you could use the, you guys can use input here as well, like I was telling you last time. Input type, we're going to put text, and then the ID is going to be input name, okay? And so we have this that's going to say something like let name, whoa, if I could spell. Okay, let name equal document.getElementById, put the parentheses in there, and then you ask for that. You say input, nope. Oh, it's not going to put it up for me? Oh, it's not going to put it up for me. Okay, fine. Type it in myself. A couple extra letters. So now you have this document.getElementById, and it's looking at input name, which is right here. And it's going to say let name equal whatever is in that input file, that input space. So you have this input type text, ID input name, and then this right here, whatever this space is going to take in something. It's going to take in some text or something, and then when you click the button on click, it's going to go up here to first, and then it's going to take name, and it's going to take the name from that box and shove it into the let name. And then if you pick this name, it's going to print back out your name. So something you could do is, so if you wanted to print something, if you wanted to have a string, you could say I'll actually use final again. Let's use final. Excuse you. So let's use final again, and I would put this and say hello blank, and put plus name plus how are you today? Oh, and you probably want to put a space here just so that the name isn't being crushed together. How are you today? Do you like mustard or ketchup? So this is putting that into final. And then I have to change this back to final now that I've changed that. And so it takes that name from the text box and it's going to shove it into final and put all this together into one big string and then shove it into the output div here. And then it'll print that for us once you click the button. So very interesting. Let me save this and show you guys what it looks like. Let me hit save, and then I'll just do like a test.html. Hit enter. Let me go over here to my file. I'll click on it. Excuse you. All right, as soon as I open it, this is what it's going to do. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. Sorry. That was the wrong file. Sorry. Let's go over here. Open the correct file. There it goes. So now, for right now, it doesn't say anything in here. It doesn't say what you need to put in there, like what goes in there. I mean, we know that it's supposed to be the name, but if we didn't, we could make that work. We could put some words there. But for now, we know that it's the name. I'll put JSON. That's it. There you go. Just a random name. JSON. Anyway, so you click me, and it's oh, interesting. I love it when it does this because it makes me think about what I did wrong. So it's supposed to put your name there. Let's go find out what I did wrong. It is. Haha. There it is. Okay, so it took me a minute to figure out which tab I was supposed to look at. But anyway, if you come here to debugger and you go down and click on the file, it'll show you what the file looks like. Now the beauty of this is you can click anywhere along one of these numbers and it will stop on that line of code and tell you what it's doing right there. So I want to click on this beginning function right here, and I want it to tell me what's happening right at the function. Well, it can't actually. So come down to the next available one here at 11. You click on it, it makes a mark, it lets you know. And I'd like to know what's going on when I put that in there. Okay, so if I hit click me, there it goes, paused on breakpoint, it'll show me what's going on here. Because I'd like to know. I'd like to know what I'm doing wrong. So I come over here, it shows you all of what you're doing. First is just your call stack, on click. So this is step over and step in. So we want to go step in. Let's see. So interesting. Here are your scopes, which tell you all of your variables and things like that. First is, or final is uninitialized, which is a good point. I just made it. Step down. Okay, so it's printing object. It's not taking my object correctly. Oh. Okay, so I found it. Okay. It was an error on my part. I didn't do something right. I found it. At the end of your document.getElementById, especially if you're like calling it like from a text box, you have to type, oh whoopsies, value. I forgot that. I am very sorry. You have to type .value for it to receive it correctly, and I forgot about that. So we'll resave the file. We'll come back over here. We'll hit refresh. We'll close this developer window for now. Come back to it if we need to. And now if you hit click me, it says, hello Jason, how are you today? Do you like mustard or ketchup? So there we go. Yeah, sorry, that took me a couple minutes to figure out what I did wrong. I totally forgot you have to have the value there. So put a value there, you're good to go. So these are two different ways you can call for the name. So as we did it earlier, you can say let name equal prompt and then ask for it, and that'll pop up like a window for you. Or you can do it this way, whichever way you prefer better. I like this way because it's not invasive. It's not like popping up in your face and saying, please enter your name. But this way, there's just a text box there that does that for you. And then you pass it into the name, and then you add them together, and then you pass it back out through this right here by giving final back in to output div, and it gives it to you as a div here. So that's how you do that. So the two challenges that we have for today are, one, actually pretty similar to what I'm doing here. The challenge is that you need to create a string to say hello to the person by having them type in their name. So create something very similar to this to have them receive their name. You can do it by saying let name equal prompt and then put in quotations what you want the prompt to say to them, like I did a few minutes ago. Or you can do it like this: let name equal document.getElementById and use input name or some other name, it doesn't matter, and then make this ID match for a text input. You can do all of that. Have the program receive the person's name somehow. Don't quite know what you're gonna do yet, but just do that. Have it receive their name and print it back out at them and greet them. Say, hello, how are you today? Or hello, is this your first program? Like, it doesn't matter. Just type something, but have it make a string where it reprints back out the name to the user in like a greeting type thing. Challenge number 2 for this week was something to do with scripture. For the class that I was in, they had you pick a random scripture, just haul a scripture out of the scripture somewhere, pull one out of there, and then just find one that the name can be replaced and put your name in there or someone else's name or whatever. So it's a similar idea to what we're doing right here, except you manually type out, I recommend a short verse. You could use a song if you wanted to. If there's a song that says, you could do like, hey there Delilah, I don't know, like you could, and you just type out the lyrics to a small portion of that, and then you insert the name wherever the name needs to go, and that way it'll print out just like this, and it will say, hey there Jason, for hey there Delilah. But you get the idea. That's the challenge, to find a way to enter a name and have it print back out at you. Those are the 2 challenges. They're very similar to one another, so they shouldn't take a lot of effort to get through. One is just greeting you, saying hello so-and-so. Another one is just making sure there's a scripture. You could also break it up if you wanted to have like the scripture / song in a variable, and then have the final in a different one, and then so it looks cleaner if that's what you want to do. What I mean by that is saying let name and then let verse of song or scripture, and then you put in the verse of whatever the verse says, and then you just add those 2 together by saying, I don't know, if it is that it does say like, hey there Delilah, if that's what it is, like you could do it like this, hey there, and then put name in there, and then say what's it like in New York City? Okay, there you go. So that's the verse, and then you can just get rid of this and just say that, final is just verse. That seems a little redundant just because you're like plugging it in more places than you need to. But you could do it that way. There's just no end to how many times you can pass things through variables and do things like that. You could split the verse into 2 separate ones. You could call it verse 1 and then let verse 2. Verse 2 and then equal. And then you just say something like this. You just get rid of that. You say, hey there, and then that. What's it like in New York City? And then put that on the end. And then you can say like verse 1 or verse 2, you could say like let final equal verse 1 plus name plus verse 2. Then that works too. And it'll plug all these together to say verse 1, and then since there's a space there, it will put name, and then verse 2. It'll print it all out evenly. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Find the way that you like the best to do it. That's pretty much the challenge. They're both pretty much the exact same challenge, except one was just using like a scripture and one was using like a greeting to say hi. So it was just practice at doing the very exact same thing. So have fun with this one. That's the challenge for this week. A couple notes. Don't forget your semicolons at the end of each of your commands. You don't put it up here at the function, but you put it here at the end of like each and every command. You don't do that in HTML though. You only do it inside JavaScript. Your onClick function, you must put that in parentheses. Don't forget the parentheses for the function name. Don't make sure that your IDs always match. That's very important. As well as your output div ID. All the IDs need to match where they're going. Keep an eye on that. And then if all else fails, remember, since I'm so happy I actually got to show this to you, if you hit F12, it'll open this up. Make sure you click debugger window, and then you click on the file right there. And then you can just look at this. And you can click on a specific one. Now, the cool thing actually about Firefox, which is what I'm using right now, I usually use Chrome. But the cool thing about Firefox is it grays out the ones you can't click on. which doesn't really matter. You can't click on the function name. You click here, and it'll just bring you to the very first thing that goes in the file. So if you are using Chrome and you happen to click like right here on 9, it'll just jump you to 11. And yeah, and then you can hit go, or you can hit on here and it'll break for you, and you can click step over or step in, and it will help you walk through your code, and it'll tell you what all the stuff is, so you can start to figure out what's going on in your code. That's a very beautiful resource to use. I hope you guys enjoyed this week, and you guys enjoy the challenge that you guys can punch together yourself and make it work, and learn a little bit more about HTML and Python and how they work together hand in hand. But yeah, let me know if this helped you, if you had fun, if you need more information on this, if you have questions, any of that, let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss next week's video when it comes out. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. All right.